Finding reference angles. To find the reference angles of a degree, you must know the unit circle first. So this is a unit circle, and it goes 0 degrees, 90, 180, 270, and 360 degrees. And it goes 30, 45, and 60 degrees, and it just increases by 30 when it goes from here to like here. For example, this would be 120 degrees. But then in the middle of these two lines, it's plus 15 degrees, making this 135 degrees. So anyways, when you find a reference angle, you must first draw an XY plane, which looks like this. This is the x-axis, and this is the y. And you have to sketch the angle. So for example, 390 degrees. You would do, when it's positive, you go counterclockwise, and when it's negative, so for example, this is positive 390 degrees. You would go looping around once, that's 360. But the circle doesn't close, it becomes a swirl as you pass 360 degrees. And so you stop the swirling circle once you're at the estimated destination. So this is 360, and then you go to an estimate of 390, and then you draw a line and an angle. So that's how you sketch, that's how you sketch it. And then if this was negative, you would start clockwise and go that way. So once you get it there, you make an imaginary line to figure out which angle you're trying to find. And in this case, we're finding this angle right here. And so, to find the reference angle, you would subtract the degree that you have, 390, from the degree closest to it, meaning you do 390 minus 360 degrees, because that's the angle, that's the degree that's closest to the x-axis. And so 390 degrees minus 360 degrees equals 30 degrees. And so there's 4 quadrants. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And so the final answer would be quadrant 1, 30 degrees. And that's all.
Step 5. To conclude, in the graph there are 4 sections labeled 1 through 4 in Roman numerals. It first starts from the top right to the top left to the bottom left, and then finally the bottom right. You give the Roman numerals by knowing the spot your line is stopped at. After, to find the reference angle, you have to subtract the degrees number that you were given by
1440. 1440.
1440. So we start.
1440 minus
1,369. But should we start? Since you
no, you can. I'll cut that out.
And once you get that, you get 71 degrees.
That's it?
Yeah. Medium example. Step 1. Figure out which direction you are going to draw the angle. Clockwise or counterclockwise. How you figure this out is if it's negative, you go clockwise. If it's positive, you go counterclockwise. Step 2. Once you figure out the direction you have, then graph it. The way you graph it is knowing that for each of the 4 lines you pass, the distance between the 2 lines in the graph is 90 degrees. So all you have to do is calculate and draw a line around the graph until you reach the degrees required to solve the problem. Step 3. Once you reach close to the degree required, you stop and draw a straight line from the origin to the spot you had to stop at. Step 4. Then you subtract the highest number divisible by 90 to the degrees you were given. Step 5. To conclude, in the graph there are 4 sections labeled 1 through 4 in Roman numerals. First, start from the top right to the top left to calculate which Roman numeral is which.
So a hard example for finding reference angle is finding a reference angle of radians. So if you have a question like -7 pi over 8, you need to convert that from radians to degrees. So to do that, you need to multiply it by, one second, let me draw this graph. You need to multiply the radians by 180 over pi, and that converts it to degrees. So once you answer that, you get a negative number, which is 157.5 degrees. So drawing the graph for negative numbers, you start by drawing the lines down from the x-axis, from the right x-axis. So you draw it down. But if it's a positive number, you start by drawing from the right axis up. But in this case, it's a negative number, so we draw it down. So it's about right there. Don't forget to remember your degrees for each x and y axis. If you want a more specific drawing, you can find the halfway point between each x and y axis. Now to find the reference angle, you need to find out which x-axis it's closer to, and then based on how small or large the number is, you should subtract the degrees from x-axis, which can be either 180, 360, 720, 1080, etc. So you take your x-axis, which it's closest to, which is 180 degrees, and subtract that by 157.5 to find your reference angle, which is 22.5 degrees. So this is your reference angle, and that is 22.5 degrees. So that is how you find your reference angle for a hard problem like converting radians to degrees and drawing.